Gators Breakdown episode 42 is live and ready to go, where we will review the last official visit weekend heading into signing day. Of course, the big James Robinson story that come out today, kind of not too long before this podcast. Gaddy twins also making news. Neither good or bad for them. This is a Florida decision here, and we look forward to the Elijah Conliffe decision that he will make tomorrow on Tuesday. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. And as like every week, I am joined by Joey V. You can find him on Twitter at JoeyV_SEC Sports. Joey, how we doing tonight, man?
Trying to stay warm. It's freezing here in Florida.
Yes, 30 degrees is freezing in Florida.
And then you got all the people that are listening to us up north that are probably like, you guys are jerks.
That is true. That is true. I was on Bill King's last week, and that's kind of how I led into his show. It was probably close to 50 degrees around the time I recorded, and I even joked. I was like, "Yeah, it's a little cold for me," and he even asked, "What's cold for you?" And I said, "About 50 degrees." So a little joke there. So
anything below 60 is freezing.
It is. So, as I mentioned, this is Gators Breakdown. You can find all the episodes of Gator Breakdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Just search those sites or get the links by following us on Twitter at Gators Breakdown, and on Facebook, just search Gators Breakdown there. So, Joey, man, we have plenty to talk about. You and I were talking about before we came on. Originally when we talked this morning, it may just be reviewing this last visit weekend, but this Monday has been pretty eventful.
Yeah, the day kind of wrote itself for us. we didn't even need to create any material. It kind of just fell in our laps, so to say.
Yeah, I know.
And with all the crazy stuff happening today, what's kind of lost is this Christopher Henderson situation too. We kind of talked about this earlier. We thought 72 hours ago that he was going to Miami. Today it doesn't look so much like he's heading to Miami. He might be a Gator.
At least say it's 50-50 right now.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah. You know what? Well, yeah, before we dive on, and I know I gave a little rundown of what we talk about, but Joey, let's talk about quickly this whole Miami situation, because I think that's kind of where this Henderson thing maybe put Florida more back in the fold than what we kind of thought before. Today, the Miami situation, they took a story that a fan admitted that he made up, where Florida coaches were on tape paying a potential recruit. Of course, Miami coaches got wind of it. They even used that story to negative recruit against Florida, mainly with Henderson and some other recruits. And now I think that might be kind of what turns around and bites them in the back, as that story has kind of been debunked now. I know a little bit about the story, and it was more about Homestead High School down there in South Florida, where there was I think it was a Martin Luther King Day. Their coach tweeted out that Florida shouldn't be sending a certain staffer to his school and recruit. From what I've heard through the grapevine, it's Kerry Dixon, and that coach and Dixon have a bad history. But he was not saying the school of Florida cannot go there. Other staff members, he was not saying other staff members couldn't go there. So I think with all the negative stuff that happened with Florida last week with Elijah Blaze and Kayleon Bear and all that, I think somebody just made the story up, tried to connect the dots with that negative connotation there, and wrote a story that kind of just took off.
Yeah, with the Bear thing, I think this had nothing to do with his, flip, or his, commitment to Miami. We talked about, I think it was the O-line coach or lack thereof.
Yes.
Miami kind of played that beautifully and put it in his head that, why are you going to go play for somebody that's invisible? But with the Christopher Henderson thing, I think, like you said, he was one of the ones that they called and probably tried to fill his head with ideas about Florida, doing that. And then when it came out and light that it was all made up, it started to make him think. I text you actually that Miami used some other tactics to try to get his pledge. I'll just say that his father grew up a huge Miami Hurricanes fan his entire life since he was born. So, when you get to the dad to try to get the son's signature, sometimes that could sway decisions as well. But we did see what Henderson tweeted out the other day. He said business decision. And that was actually after somebody had tweeted at him, I believe, about Florida defensive backs making $240 million in contracts in the NFL right now, and Miami only making $66 million in contracts. And then shortly after, he did tweet out business decision in quotations, I believe. So that's got to make you cause for pause. So, and Henderson is a huge target. I mean, he's huge. He was an Under Armour All-American, 4-star ESPN 300 kid. And I think Florida would just love to have him, because not only is he dynamic in the defensive backfield, he's a returner. He's an elite returner. He's going to return kicks, return punts. He's a speedster, and he can flat out play ball. And him and Bryan Edwards, I believe, are close. I believe they do talk. And that could be a package deal. Bryan Edwards was just here this past weekend. Apparently had a great time. Knows that Florida's DBU. Saw Brad Stewart commit in front of the entire recruiting staff and all the families. Apparently gave a nice little speech and everything. So that's kind of good. So who knows? We're going to see where Henderson ends up. Apparently he's supposed to make a decision by tomorrow night and let either staff know where he is going. So it's going to be an interesting 48 hours day, actually 36 hours. It's going to be nuts. I mean, this is the craziest last couple of days of recruiting that I can remember for Florida. Most of the time we knew who was coming. Nothing was really a surprise. And, things are literally changing by the hour today. I mean, it's nuts. It really is.
Yeah, it does seem that way. It started last, Wednesday with the Elijah Blades and Kayleon Hebert going around, and then the weekend visit where Florida gets 3 commits over the weekend, and Nick Smith, Brad Stewart, Donovan Steiner last night. And now we get to Monday, and even more stories come out. Joey, I think this is an old adage for Gator fans. And people who follow the Florida program and media, it is never a dull moment covering the University of Florida.
It hasn't been since the head ball coach took over.
I mean, it is. It seems just like it's something all the time, positive, negative. I mean, it's something to do with Florida all the time.
Yep, and it's not just with the football program too. It's with basketball. It's softball. It's baseball. It's everything, man. It's crazy, but. No, getting into how today went, started off kind of quiet. And then we got to the James Robinson situation this afternoon, where there were reports, I had messaged you that I was told that his scholarship offer was pulled. Apparently Florida did some homework over the weekend since the incident this past weekend. And, apparently they backed off. We assume that it's higher pay grade than Jim McElwain, and probably higher than Strickland as well. This probably came down from President Fox, possibly from, other people that, not just him, possibly some boosters. Florida does do their background on people. We do know that Florida has one of the best background departments in the country. They have one of the best compliance departments in the country. And I believe that, they found some things that they didn't like on top of the marijuana. Maybe they contacted James Robinson. We do know that McElwain visited him. Maybe he wasn't telling the whole truth to Coach McElwain. And that was part of it. Maybe he lied to Coach McElwain and lied to the administration when they asked him questions. And then they found out it was a lie. And, so we just don't know. I'm not going to assume anything right now. But I do know one thing, I don't like to do this, on our live, but do you honestly believe that if James Robinson gave his commitment to Urban Meyer that weekend, that his name would have ever been involved in any police report? I mean,
makes you wonder.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
It does make you wonder. And, I tweeted out, with Scott Strickland and the ugly situation he dealt with at Mississippi State last year with, Jeffrey Simmons punching a player, and that he was a 5-star recruit, and he was able to still come to Mississippi State. Maybe, Strickland learned something from that situation to where It's just something that he didn't necessarily want to have to deal with again. From what I've heard, and it was kind of confirmed through other people, that this came from higher than Strickland. So it's a weird situation. We that kind of thought, if you sit here making mock classes and stuff.
But I will say this: Oklahoma backed off.
Yeah.
Ohio State rescinded their offer. So Florida's not the only one. So obviously there was things that were going on behind the scenes that we don't know the full story, because it's not like somebody else was really ready to scoop up and grab James Robinson. He actually has nowhere to go right now.
Right. If you look at everything now, you see in FIU, you're seeing Marshall.
South Florida could jump in the mix, Western Kentucky. I mean, these are programs that really have low standards of acceptance, but him at Florida Atlantic, I mean, come on, he under Lane Kiffin could turn him into a dynamic player.
If I was him, and he's not dead set on going to Florida, maybe he goes the JUCO route for a couple of years, and if he really wants to be a Gator, that's the route he probably needs to go. But if he doesn't and he still wants to play D1 football, I wouldn't blame him one bit. If Lane Kiffin's recruiting me and seeing what that guy did with offenses, I would sign up in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. And I hope he lands somewhere. I hope, we know his story. He comes from a really rough background, rough neighborhood in Lakeland. Mom was a bad drug addict, and dad was in prison, and, just kind of never had any guidance in his life. And, he's a little bit older. He did fail a grade or two, I believe.
Yeah.
So he's had his academic issues in the past. And who knows, this could be part of an academic issue. We did talk a little bit about, in the past about him having an academic issue, about his grades getting him qualified for Florida possibly, but we just don't know the whole story yet. It bothers me to see a kid like this get turned down, from a chance to turn his life around. But, Florida's made some bad mistakes in taking people in the past that they shouldn't have. Look at J.C. Jackson.
Yeah.
I could tell you right now, I know the full story. I've talked to J.C. Jackson's high school football coach. I've talked to him over the phone, and he told me that he warned Will Muschamp when Will Muschamp recruited him to Florida. He said, look, J.C. Jackson is an excellent football player, and he's a terrific athlete, he said, but he has a lot of problems, and he cannot keep his nose out of trouble. He said that trouble seems to follow him wherever he goes, and he's been like that since he was younger. And he said the only way that he's going to be successful in college is if you hide him from who he is, from what he grew up around. And we saw that he got shot on Christmas Eve, on top of the robbery thing. There's been several issues that J.C. Jackson had, and he never was able to live up to his billing, because of the issues. So I understand why coaches, kind of are a little nervous, especially nowadays. David, look at Joe Mixon at Oklahoma,
right?
All that stuff. I mean, Bob Stoops, there are people calling for his job after, the videotape came out. I mean, people nowadays, in the era of social media and how quick people are to throw stones at people these days, and pretty much, hang you by a noose for doing anything wrong. They're literally ready to get pitchforks out and take you to your own grave. And I could see why coaches now are really hesitant to kind of take a chance on anybody with a little questionable character, because, David, if something came out of this, what if James Robinson, had done something really bad while he was at Florida? What's going to say to Mac and Strickland? Well, the signs were there, Mac. You should have known. This is just going to be another notch on his resume of people blaming him for something, that, he had, might have had no control over. So I understand it both ways. I understand not giving the kid a chance, not giving him a chance to excel in life. And I feel really bad, but I also can see that maybe there's things that they were really concerned about being a pattern flip, being a trend. And, that's something that we'll have to definitely look at and try to figure out in the next coming days. But it's done and over with. I'm sad and disappointed about it, but I'm not angry. I don't hold anything against Florida, administration for doing it, because we just don't know. But that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But it does put in my head now Does this also affect Darius Lemons in any way? He visited this past weekend. We know the trouble he had this past football season, where he was kind of suspended from his own team. During the fall, and didn't really get to play this past his senior season, where many people were calling him the best running back in Florida. He didn't even get to hardly play his senior season of high school. He has academic issues, and there were some other issues out there as well off the field. So makes me wonder if we may hear something about his situation coming up soon too.
Yeah, but from everything we've heard, he's done everything he needed to do to kind of regroup his image. He's done the right things. I think McElwain pretty much told him, look, if you mess up again, you're gone from my class. Right. And he's done nothing but has increased his grades from what we were told. Apparently he got his ACT scores up to where they should be. Apparently he's been, walking the straight and narrow. Came this weekend, got to sit down with the coaches and kind of explain himself maybe. And McElwain kind of explained himself and said, these are going to be the rules, if we allow you to come here. And
one way I look at it too, I just don't see, I don't see Florida bringing him on campus this past weekend if it wasn't good.
Exactly. Yeah, if he wasn't already allowed, I think, to be a Gator, I don't think he would have been allowed to come on an official this weekend.
I agree. So moving on, the Gaddy twins look like between a Gators and Terps battle, Maryland Terps battle there, and they visited this past weekend. Looks like they had a good time, but came out right before airtime. Saw it on the rival site. Mark Wheeler, I believe, posted it first on Twitter that Florida will not give them an offer or a national letter of intent to sign on Wednesday. So what does that mean for the Gators? There's a couple things out there floating around with the twins. They're a package deal, and it's floating around there that they may not have the grades, or Florida doesn't want to sign 5 defensive tackles at that position. It is a position of need, but many don't think Florida necessarily needs 5 at this point. So it kind of hurts them a little bit that they're a package deal, but I can understand they're twins or brothers, their whole life together, of course. They probably want to go to the same school. So right now it probably looks like them going to Maryland. I would kind of think, this is more of a Florida just doesn't necessarily have room for them right now, because Maryland, the academics there are no joke either, Joey.
Yeah, absolutely. Maryland is a really elite school. I think, David, to be honest, we just talked about it before the show started. I think it's because Florida doesn't want to take both of them. They're a package deal. One of them is really good, and one of them isn't not so good. And you said as well, the defensive tackle position is kind of clogged up. Florida needed to address it, and they really have actually this class. And from what I'm hearing is Florida's making a huge push for Georgia commit Devontae Wyatt right now. And apparently he's someone that Florida wants really bad. And right now, he's really kind of questioning his commitment to Georgia. I think that, some feel that South Carolina is a major player in his decision come signing day, but he loved it here at Florida, and I think the coaches love him. And, I think he'd be a huge signee. I do want to point out right now, as we're talking live, Levi Jones' sister, Leah Jones, just tweeted out decisions, #Gators Seminoles. And Levi Jones is in a picture with a Florida Gators sweatshirt on, hoodie, and Seminole sweatpants. And I just wanted to say that as we're talking live right now, because many think Seminoles is the pick. But, I mean, we saw the time that the Jones family had last weekend when they were here. And, you just can't say enough about what the staff did to get his family involved and make his family love the campus in Gainesville. So, taking aside from that, I didn't mean to take away from our conversation. But that would be just a huge, huge get for Florida on Wednesday. Oh, man.
That would be, and most kind of thought that it was a FSU USC Florida battle, but I guess going along with that tweet, maybe just FSU and Florida there. So interesting there with Levi Jones. So moving on. Also, this show is Monday night being recorded now, so tomorrow will be Tuesday. A lot of you will probably listen to this on Tuesday. So Tuesday at 3:30, Elijah Conliffe tweeted today making my official commitment with Butcher Report Live on Tuesday, January 31st at 3:30 p.m. So Elijah Conliffe will make his decision. Looks mostly to be a Florida-Tennessee battle, and from everything we've heard the last few days, it really seems Conliffe is a Gator, Joey.
Yes, I am really excited about this guy. We saw that he's just a stud. And I'm a huge fan. If you watch his film, I mean, he just jumps off your screen. So this is another area, Florida taking a defensive tackle, another one. But Conliffe's a stud, David. We talked about him. What did we last Monday night when we were doing our preview for the visitors coming up this week?
Yeah.
Didn't you say that he was one of your standouts for this weekend?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, it was. He's just, of course, a player at a big position of need that Florida needs right now. And, the size, the athleticism, when you mentioned he jumps out at you, that's what you want to see from an SEC type defensive tackle. Pretty physical as well. I think that's the one thing I want to see I want to see a nasty defensive tackle. That's what I really loved about Dominic Easley so much when he was at Florida
man.
He just wanted to get nasty. He wanted to beat you up. If you line up on the other side of him, I mean, he even admitted himself, he wasn't a big fan of football. He just wanted to go line up to the other side of somebody and just beat them. And that's kind of how I see Conliffe playing. Now, he may, not think about the game of football that way, but that's kind of what I see with, him just, looking so mean and the SEC defensive tackle. Those are the type of players Florida needs at this time. And, he's relentless. He plays smart. He's got good angles to the ball. He's fast enough to get those angles. So that's kind of what I like and what I see from Conliffe.
Yeah, I mean, I would compare him to a Dominic Easley type guy. He has that same kind of build. He has that same kind of mentality, and I just love it. And I'm excited to see where he's going to end up tomorrow. It's going to be exciting. These next 36 to 48 hours are just going to be exhausting. They're going to be, up and down, and I did want to mention, before we go any further, that, LeBron Ray is a guy right now that I said stood out to me this past weekend. Friday, I probably would have said we had about a 5 to 10% chance of getting him. Now I say it's a 50-50 chance between Alabama and Florida. And there's been people close to him that say he is legitimately torn between the two. And, and it's family. Family is the reason what's tearing him, because he has family in Gainesville. He brought several of his family members on campus with him for the visits, and he loved it. He had a great time. His families that lives in Gainesville are Gator fans. And he even said that having his family around while he's on campus is huge. He would love it. And and not only would getting him be huge from a recruiting momentum this offseason, but it would also be huge to steal him from Nick Saban. You got to think about these things. We talked about recruiting rivalries off the field for coaches. We just lost Alex Leatherwood to Alabama. How great would it be to get a 5-star defensive end from Alabama, at a position that Nick Saban prides himself on, just kind of restocking the shelves every single season. This would be absolutely huge. So I did want to make a note about him as well. And he will be committing, if I'm not mistaken, at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, 12 or 1 of the two.
Yeah, something. I know it's later on. So, he'll get to.
Florida has about 5 targets committing on signing day, I believe. 4 or 5 that are actually Florida is in the mix.
Yeah, I'm not sure what time he commits. I'm trying to remember now, because I thought there was a big-time player that commits early in the morning that I thought maybe
Levi Jones. Levi Jones is 8 a.m.
Okay, all right.
8 a.m. Levi Jones is the first actually televised commitment. He'll be on ESPNU at 8 a.m.
Gotcha. Okay, sounds good. So, Joey, also Florida. I mean, over the weekend, a way to bounce back from last Wednesday, and got some guys in over the weekend, and definitely got some commits, and some, Nick Smith, they kind of expected. Brad Stewart, most people thought he was leaning Florida. Florida got that commit, and then a surprise commit from Donovan Steiner, who came in as a Houston commit. I kind of liken him being brought in I thought that the staff was scrambling a little bit, trying to make up for the loss of Elijah Blades, and maybe hearing the negative of C.J. Henderson going to Miami, and also Brian Edwards maybe leaning towards Miami as well. So I kind of thought they brought in Steiner to as a backup plan, and it worked. I mean, I figured once I saw he had a Florida offer, he would probably commit to Florida as it was his best offer by far. As I mentioned, he was committed to Houston. He was previously committed to Baylor before all that crazy stuff went down there. So, Joey, we'll quickly hit on these three guys. I know we need to wrap up pretty soon. But, Brad Stewart, a versatile defensive back. I tell you what, so watching some of his film, I liked his instincts. He's a smart player for a high school player. I think one of the first few plays I watched, you could just already tell he could recognize plays. He knew what was coming, and I think seeing that at the high school level, I think to me that only gets better. I know those offenses they're going against are not too complex, but to see a high school player being able to maybe watch film and being able to recognize stuff already, I think that sets up good for him.
Yeah, I mean, and let's not gloss over the fact that he plays high school football in New Orleans. New Orleans has big time high school football. Okay, if you're talking about probably the top 10 biggest cities of football in the country, you got Miami, you got Los Angeles, you got probably the Dallas, Texas area, Houston, and New Orleans is right up there. I mean, there's some great football in New Orleans, in the New Orleans area. And, for Florida, Brad Stewart is the second commit that Florida's gotten out of Louisiana since 2001. Think about that. Les Miles has built a wall around the state of Louisiana for so long that Florida couldn't even go in and get a commitment. We saw Christian Fulton, chose LSU over Florida last year. That was a heartbreaker. And, and to go in and get a 4-star like Brad Stewart, and Brad Stewart is a stud. Okay. He can play. That kid is a beast. He's going to play as a freshman. I guarantee you he's going to play as a freshman. And I think he's going to move to safety. Do you think he's going to move to safety?
I think we'll get first crack at corner just because that's where Florida needs help most. Corner, nickel. But, you got Marco Wilson coming in too. There's no telling what you're going to see.
And Sean
Davis, C.J. Henderson maybe, and some other guys
too.
So.
And I could see the other guys being more true corners, and I think Brad Stewart is just a great back, a great defensive back. So that's why I got him moving to safety possibly.
Yeah, but the good thing is, at least it's an option. I mean, more than likely, he's kind of Chauncey Gardner-ish in a way where he could probably play wherever you put him.
Yeah, I mean, I would even liken him to, a guy, a free safety, like a Marcus May. I mean, I could even liken him to a Joshua Evans type player. Somebody that plays center field and is a ball hawk. I mean, you just talked about his instincts. I mean, the guy is a ball hawk. He can play center field. If you're in a cover one, he's going to be able to, get there. He's going to be able to know where the ball's going to help out over the top. And that's something that I could definitely see him doing. And so, I just can't speak highly enough about watching his film. Like you said, when you put on his tape, he jumps off your screen. He's always on a tackle. He's always tipping a pass. He's always getting an interception. I mean, he's always involved on every play.
Yeah, moving on to Nick Smith, I think a lot of people were saying he was underrated by you once you kind of watch his film, former NC State commit. Once he decommitted, most people thought he would be a Gator, and it turned out to be true. Joey jokes with me a lot. I consider him the Jared Davis maybe of this class with the 3-star, 6'2", 6'3", 210. Can he build into that type of frame? I think Davis was playing near 235, 240 probably once he came in and put on some weight. So Smith, but he did play with much more than Jared Davis did in high school with his hand in the dirt. I think in college he'll fall back a little bit, play one of the linebacker positions. It's kind of he's around everywhere. I kind of like he really likes to hit a quick first step when you watch him play. So we'll see what happens with him. Plays pretty smooth, but he probably can be better in pass coverage. I think if we go back and look, you don't necessarily see a lot of that on highlight tape because of course they're not going to show bad stuff. But pass coverage, I think maybe with his speed. and probably some strength. Like I mentioned, he probably needs to grow into his frame a little bit more. And can he do that? I think it remains to be seen. But I like his potential.
Yeah, and David, don't forget he played behind some pretty excellent linebackers at Dr. Phillips in his junior year. So he never really had a chance to shine. And this is what I say. If you take his senior year and drop it back to his junior year, I think that he's in the top 150 in the country. I do. I think he's a 4-star easily going into his senior year if he had the tape from his senior year as his junior year tape. I think teams got on him a little late because he didn't really have a standout high school career until he was a senior in high school. And that happens a lot. A lot of guys get lost in the depth chart. And then when they get their chance as a senior in high school, they make the most of it and they jump off your screen. And, that I think that happens with a lot of the guys that are underrated, and only get 3 stars that should have been 4 stars or 5 stars. And Nick Smith is one of those guys. I think Nick Smith's he's not going to redshirt. I think he's going to play as a freshman. Do you agree?
Yeah, you got.
We need depth. We need depth at linebacker back.
Depth, and we got Moon.
We saw how thin we were when guys started going down at the end of the year.
What you got?
Linebacker.
You got Reese, Kylan Johnson, Moon.
Yeah, Jeremiah Moon is going to play.
Right. So you got definitely some room for young linebackers to play. So in the third one, Donovan Steiner mentioned he committed on Sunday. Kind of a surprise, late addition. For an offer from the Gators. If you go back and look, he played a little bit of everything. He played some safety, corner, and some nickel in high school, and has a frame to grow into. So kind of like Nick Smith there, can add some weight. Of course, he's going to have to last in the SEC. And Joey, you mentioned Nick Smith being able to come in and play. I definitely see Steiner as more of a project. Let him redshirt, get some coaching from Torian Gray and the defensive backs. But his career, he had 156 tackles, 13 for loss, 3 sacks, 2 interceptions, 4 fumble recoveries, 2 forced fumbles. This past year as a senior, he had 56 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 1 sack, 2 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries, 2 defensive touchdowns, and 2 pass breakups. And scout.com there with the stats for him. So it's just, I think, as I mentioned before, I think it was more of a scramble move by Florida to get him in. He committed, and now I kind of wonder what happens with the other DBs that Florida has on the board.
Yeah, we're looking at Brian Edwards out of Miramar High School, and we're looking at Christopher Henderson out of Columbus, both Miami kids, South Florida kids. And we need to get 1 or 2 or both. We know that this class's defensive tackle was a statement of need to be addressed, and defensive back, because we're losing 3 defensive backs to the draft this year, and it's going to be crazy next year when Florida loses Nick Washington, Duke Dawson, Marcel Harris. All those guys will be gone after next year. So there's 3 more spots that need to be filled. So you got to groom these guys up right now at DBU, and we just really have to focus on. Florida just has to focus on getting depth right now. I think that's something that McElwain needs to address, and I think he is addressing it right now. With the loss of James Robinson, obviously wide receiver was addressed last year. I think that's why it doesn't hurt as bad, because Florida's not as desperate right now for wide receivers. Florida's extremely deep at wide receiver right now. And I think
with Daquan Green.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, not only that, I mean, you got Hammond back there, Freddie Swain.
Let's not forget Dre Massey coming back from injury.
Dre Massey coming back, exactly, and he's got 2 years of eligibility left. So Florida's definitely deep in the wide receiver spot. Brandon Powell will be back next year, so I'm not concerned as much about that. Missing on Kai Leone Bear was kind of big, especially missing on a big offensive tackle like that. But one guy we didn't mention tonight, TJ Slayton.
Yep.
He's making his announcement. Another big time defensive tackle that most people seem to think that's going to go to Florida. He did visit Georgia this weekend, I believe.
Right.
But apparently that was just kind of just to take the official. But what are your feelings on TJ Slayton committing to the Gators?
I'm pretty sure he's a Gator from everything that's coming out. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that Georgia trip had me worried just a little bit because they're kind of that hot program in the SEC everybody's talking about right now. But that was just a little hint of a worry. I wasn't too worried coming in and him leaving Athens, with a Bulldog, heart there. So I do think he's going to be a Gator come on signing day. Joey, before I kind of dive into maybe who I think Florida ends up with in this class, Zach Bird hasn't visited. Didn't visit this past weekend. He is a current commit. Florida has 17 now. I'm wondering if it goes down to 16 and if he really ends up in this class.
I think he would get pushed out if it came to Florida needing to give somebody up. Brunson is another guy I think that Florida would push out. I'm not push out, but kind of force to the side. But Florida can take 25 this year.
I'm not sure they get there, man.
Yeah, with the James Robinson thing, I don't think they do. Unless there's a surprise on signing day. We talked about it a week or two ago. Recruits, have been talking about Florida fans just wait till signing day. So we don't know if there's a surprise out there. Who knows? Surprisingly, actually weird today, which I didn't expect, is if you follow Kayla Von Chasen's account, who just visited this weekend, there's been a few tweets that have been a little pro Gator. Most people thought that it was pretty much between Texas, LSU, and who else? USC.
Maybe I know Texas and LSU were the top two. Yeah.
But he named Florida one of his three that he's going to be deciding from. And he did just take a visit at Florida. So who knows? He could be a surprise, he could be a guy that, wakes up on Wednesday morning and says, I'm going to be a Gator. So, we all feel that Levi Jones is probably going to Florida State. I feel pretty confident in saying that. I don't know, though, because the family had such a great time in Gainesville last weekend. LeBron Ray is a toss-up to me. I think it's a coin flip. Heads is Gators, tails is Alabama. So that's about as 50-50 as it gets. And Christopher Henderson, I don't know what is going on with him. I just don't know what Miami's telling him right now because, the coaches can't talk to the kids. They can call, they can text. They just can't visit them. They can't see them in person. No staff can see them. So I just don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Right. So with 17 commits now, maybe going down to 16, we don't necessarily hear a lot on Zach Bird there. So with the additions, I have Tadaro Slayton, Elijah Conliffe, who will commit tomorrow, Tuesday. I'm putting Adarius Lemons in there. I'm putting Brian Edwards in there. Maybe a little bit of surprise. I am going to put CJ Henderson in there as Florida gets him. Just it's just a hunch. I don't know inside info this time on the South Florida kid. It's just I think a hunch there. I think he ends up in this Gator class. And
who did you say? I'm sorry. Who did you say?
CJ Henderson.
Oh, you do believe he ends up in the class?
I do believe. It's just
you do.
It's just me. Yeah, I don't know nothing I've been told. I know the stuff that came out today on Monday that Henderson and Edwards were both considering Florida more now than they were coming into last weekend. But last week I heard that more than likely he was moving on from Florida. But I really think this Miami situation kind of threw it into where at least it's 50-50 now. And just a hunch, I'm going to put him in this class. And to the late additions, I think Malik Young at defensive tackle, and I will throw Lastrick Brunson in there to hit the linebacker position again.
So does that put you at 24?
Would be 17, so 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yep.
Okay.
And I'm not sure Zach Bird gets in, so with 16 from him, 23 if he doesn't come in this class.
Okay. I got, like you said, I got, obviously Tadaro Slayton, I got coming in. These are guys that aren't committed, right? That we're talking about.
Correct. Yes,
correct. Not committed yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I got Tadaro Slayton put at 18. I have Brian Edwards put it at 19. I do have Brian Edwards coming in. I have Adarius Lemons coming in at 20. I actually have LeBron Ray coming to Florida.
Okay.
I do. I actually think that the family thing is going to put him over the top. I do think LeBron Ray is going to be a Gator, so that goes to 21. And I don't have CJ Henderson. I think Dad wins out on that one. Just the things that I'm hearing and stuff like that. Cedric Brunson, I do have, so that puts it 22. I think Devontae Wyatt. I got Devontae Wyatt coming into the class as at 23. I think Florida's making a late push for Wyatt to flip, especially with the kind of a spot available now with James Robinson out and with the Gaddy twins out. So I got it at 23.
You know, and I'll probably agree with you there. Maybe Malik Young or Wyatt instead of Young.
But
and
Florida would take Wyatt in a heartbeat over Young. Yeah.
And I think just because we assume he's a Gator, you didn't have Conliffe on your list.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Conliffe. So that goes to 24. I apologize. Yeah, so that's 24 right there. So I got it at 24 as well, like you do. But I have a few different. Like I said, I don't have CJ Henderson.
I probably will. Since you brought it up, I'll flip out Young for Wyatt there. I agree with you there. I kind of, for some reason, overlooked him. I don't know why I overlooked him. Because I've been following today. It's either a South Carolina or Georgia battle. But the more it comes out later on this Monday, that Florida's in this Wyatt battle more than led to believe. I think.
Yeah. But I do have LeBron Ray in this class, David. I do believe that this weekend made him really want to be in Gainesville. And I think the family thing, that he had his sister there, he had his mom there, he had aunts and uncles and cousins and all kinds of other family there. I just think, and from what I'm hearing, LeBron Ray is not Alex Leatherwood. He's not going to be pushed around by, money and pushed around by, Nick Saban kind of threatening him. He's not that guy. He's his own man. He's a family and faith kind of guy. And, he's going to make a decision based on what he wants to do. And that's why I do feel in the end, he's a Gator.
Sounds good. So I think since you flipped me on Wyatt, I think probably our only difference is me having Henderson coming and you having Ray coming.
Exactly.
Yep. All right. There we go. So Joey and I's Monday mock, I guess you could say. So I guess if we change it and we'll come out, we can probably tweet it out on Tuesday, our differences there. So Joey, anything else before we sign off on this one, my bud?
No, it's just been I'm exhausted just from today, from working and dealing with this nonsense. But I'll be just glad when signing day's over, man. It's kind of like becoming Christmas to me now. It's like it's not even fun anymore. It's just it's stressful. And December 26th, you kind of just breathe a sigh of relief. And that's probably what I'll feel like on Wednesday night when everybody's committed, because I'll be like, okay, letters of intent are in. Nonsense off of social media now, and but the next time we talk,
there you go.
We'll have our class put together. Hopefully there won't be any CC Jefferson incidents where there's is the LOI end and it gets lost.
Oh man, that's what happened. That's right down the road for me. I was really going to just drive over and take care of it myself.
Union County.
No, Baker County.
Oh, Baker County. Okay. Union and Baker are right next to each other, aren't they?
Next to each other. Right. They are.
Yeah.
So I'm 25
minutes. Did the LOI get lost? Did Dad take it from him and run away? Did Mom grab it and run to FedEx with it? That was the craziest situation. That was the craziest 4 or 5 hours on a recruiting day I could remember, was when CC Jefferson committed to Florida underneath the tent outside of his front yard. And
it was raining, yep.
And the letter of intent didn't come in for hours later. So,
heck, I didn't even think it was at least a day or two. I think maybe, if I remember.
Was
right.
it? Oh, it might have been. It might have been the next day. I think Dad got the bag dropped from Ole Miss, and
we see how that's working out now for Ole Miss.
What did you say?
We see how that's working out now for Ole Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss. Where are they? I mean, they're
that class.
Look at
that class is strict.
Yeah.
But as Joey mentioned, we will have a show Wednesday night. Our Gators breakdown, signing day recap. That will be Sunday night. We will have myself on, Joey on. Mark Moses has joined us on a few times. We'll have him back on, and Gator Bill, who joined me on the show yesterday, who's been posted. He's going to try and join us. We're still waiting to hear if he can join us on that. So we will definitely have you covered on signing day with everything I think you could ask for there. And I will be on Twitter all day signing day. I am not working regular job. It will be took the day off, so I have plenty of coverage there. I'll probably be periscoping throughout the day, hyping up what we're going to do on Gators Breakdown when when letters of intent get faxed in and confirmed, by the bunches. We will update you there.
Yes, it's going to be fun. I do have to work. I'm going in late though. I want to be around in the morning, see whose LOIs get sent in, and I definitely want to watch that Levi Jones commitment. I just want to see. I don't expect him to be a Gator, but we've been surprised before. Look at Dante Fowler. Look at Matt Elam.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some signing days. Tease Tabor. I mean, did we expect him to be in the class? He wasn't even on Florida's radar. And look at him. He'll go down as one of the better defensive backs in Florida history. So, things happen. Crazy things happen on signing day. Kids wake up and they feel like they want to go to school A, and then an hour later, when it comes to their decision time, they want to go to school B. So.
Yep, it will be fun, and we will have you covered. And like Joey said, maybe just a surprise or two that we don't see coming from this Gator class. So this has been Gators Breakdown, where we've talked plenty James Robinson, Gaddy twins, this last official visit weekend for the Gators, getting caught up there with the commits that they got, and looking forward to National Signing Day. So for Joey, I'm Dave. Thanks for listening to Gators Breakdown.